The Norwegian Nobel Committee yesterday announced the Nobel Peace Prize, and it has gone to María Corina Machado, who is a well-known peace crusader in Venezuela, and she has been actively promoting democracy, human rights, and also social dignity for the people of Venezuela for a long time. As in the words of the Nobel Committee itself, they say that she has got the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for the struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition to democracy. Now, this establishes the fact that the Nobel Prize has consistently supported the universal cause for peace and social dignity and justice. Now, who is María Corina Machado? I will let my colleague speak about her more.
María Corina Machado is a Venezuelan politician, and who was born in Caracas in 1967, and she has gone to become a very important figure in the political opposition of Venezuela. In 2002, she founded Sumante, a non-governmental organization which was aimed towards enhancing political participation and grassroots democracy. Maria was elected to the National Assembly in Venezuela in 2010, and by 2014 she was removed from office. Throughout her career, Machado has been a fierce critic of the ruling government led by Hugo Chavez and later on by Nicolas Maduro, his successor. Now let's take a look at her achievements.
As my colleague Dr. Anand already mentioned, María Corina Machado started her movement in 2002, and it has been a political campaign with a lot of ups and downs. She has shown courage and perseverance throughout this process despite all the hurdles as already mentioned, including barring from elections, facing exile, and she has actually been able to overcome all these hurdles to also bring along different citizens and different stakeholders and rights holders from across Venezuela who have supported her in this cause. Even when she was barred from the elections in 2024, she managed to mobilize citizen observers who would ensure electoral transparency. And I think this shows that she has got widespread support within Venezuela, and she has won elections which have of course been nullified, but that doesn't mean that she does not have the support that she requires for political legitimacy. And I think where her achievements are at this stage is also that her crusade to make every Venezuelan vote count. And I think that is what she has been fighting for, whether it is choosing peace over violence or, as we put it more artistically, choosing ballot over bullets. And that is the value that she has upheld throughout her career, throughout her political movement, right from 2002. And she has met these hurdles. That does not mean that has really changed her perception of non-violent democratic struggle that she continues to pursue even when she is under hiding. And I think that is something that we have to see as a major achievement in today's world. I will now request Dr. Anand also to mention the context in which her movement becomes so important, particularly in Venezuela and probably the wider South America as well.
Dr. Dhanasree has mentioned about María Corina Machado's achievements, but these achievements have to be understood in context of Venezuela's political as well as geopolitical situation. Venezuela is a South American country which has undergone significant political and economic transformation over the past several decades. Venezuela is well known for its hydrocarbon reserves, and over a period of time, the political system which it has adopted preferred nationalizing the resources for the common good of the people. The political landscape of Venezuela was dominated by the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, which was headed by Hugo Chavez. As the party's hold over power increased, there were a lot of criticisms about political oppression as well as lack of economic reforms. This led to the rise of opposition figures, out of which one of the most prominent was Maria. Maria has had backing from Western countries and powers including the United States as well as European Union, whereas the ruling government in Venezuela has been supported by countries like Russia, China and Iran. This domestic political differences as well as geopolitical alignments show that Venezuela is a powder keg in the entirety of Western hemisphere, and therefore Venezuela has a very important role in determining the geopolitics of Western Hemisphere. It is in this situation that Maria's fight for democracy receives international attention. So now that we have understood the geopolitical and the domestic political context behind Maria's rise and her importance, what do you have to say as final thoughts about Maria getting the Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. Dhanasree?
So yeah, as you said, this is a fight for democracy, but it is also a fight for a country that is facing so much of social, economic, political upheaval. It has seen mass displacement of populations the past decade or so. This means that there is a systemic problem that Venezuela faces, and Machado has been demanding that the population of Venezuela should get access to basic amenities. They should have freedom from poverty, they should be free of political repression, and they should have access to the fundamental rights, including the right to vote. And I think this is a universal challenge. It's a universal aspiration for every country that values human rights and that values democratic values and social justice. We know that democracy is a condition for peace. Without democracy, there cannot be peace. And I would say that Machado's aspiration is something that is a global aspiration. And what I find also important at this juncture is that Machado also represents a feminist voice, of feminist leadership, and that of defiance, a voice of defiance, unapologetic defiance, which I think is very important to also note how feminist leadership can bring fragmented, splintered groups together, because as Dr. Anand already mentioned, this was a divided opposition in Venezuela, and she managed to bring them together. So it shows that a group of activists and political campaigners can bring about change within societies. And I think that showed also in the way she responded when she was called by the Nobel Committee while she was communicated that she would be given the Nobel Peace Prize, that this is an award for the entire society that has stood against political repression. And this is not just her award. And I think that is a humbling achievement and humbling statement that she made in the conversation. And that really represents a big value that we all should actually also look at. And maybe you could also reflect on some of your thoughts on what has happened.
Absolutely. What this Nobel Prize means for the future of peace and democracy is very much apparent. Machado hasn't taken a violent or militaristic stance for bringing political change in her country. Rather, she opted for a non-violent approach and trying to mobilize society and the fragmented sections of the opposition, as how Dr. Dhanasree has put it. I think this is one very important reason we should keep in mind in terms of understanding why the Nobel went to Maria, despite certain criticisms leveled against the award as being biased and politically motivated. This award is also important in the contemporary geopolitical scenario where the world is witnessing several conflicts. And we have seen there are various questions which have arisen over the sustenance of peace. There are a lot of talks about how the peace dividend is slowly eroding and is being replaced by major power competition leading into conflict. I think in such a context, it is very important for us to look at how peace and democracy can go together. And I think that is something which is highly emblematic of this award which has gone to Maria.